All right. Um, just to, I don't know, set the tone or set the video. The intention is to work through a few chapters of YeshaYahu or Isaiah. I'm going to pray and then probably talk for a while. And I know that there's going to be discussion, and I don't want it to just be that I'm, talking and talking, because I do think that this is probably going to speak to you guys as well. I'm hoping it's not just me. So I'm hoping that this naturally flows, and I'm going to pray, and we're going to surrender all of this to the Father. All right. Abba, thank you for this study, for this time, for this fellowship, for the weekend, for your mighty hand that is bringing forth new wine. And you have prepared new wineskins for this new wine, and you are squeezing the grapes, and you are pressing us, and you are refining us, and you are, Father, there's so much you're doing, and even just the imagery of the prayers that I'm praying right now, Father, I feel the Ruach in it, and I know that this is what you are doing with us all. And I know that we are we are being poured out upon, and we are stepping into authority and wonder and glory in the fullness of your rock. And even now, we are only experiencing the very beginnings of your promises and your favor towards us. So we come to you in this moment in agreement as a mishpachah across space and time, Father, but one in your spirit. And you are here with us fully, abiding with us, wanting to meet with us. And Father, we come into agreement with all that you're doing in this season. We give you permission to rewrite every neural pathway. We give you permission to open our eyes to the fullness of reality outside of our being, but also, Father, the fullness of the reality inside of us. Let us continually be willing to examine every motive, every thought, every fear, every emotion, and submit it and bow it, that we learn real time to discern fear versus love. Let us be granted, Father, a greater ability to carry your kingdom into this world, to open the portal of the Shemayim. That as we walk, Father, we know that your word says every knee will bow and every tongue will confess, and the whole earth will be filled with your glory and your worship, Father. That means every step we take is ground we claim for you, Father. Every house we abide in is space that your Ruach dwells and has authority in, Father. And I just thank you that you're increasing our ability to stand in that authority and perceive it. So I ask that as we approach some very complex spiritual and prophetic imagery, Father, about righteous judgment and your coming kingdom and who your people are and how you judge your people with fairness, but also steadfast compassion. So let us see you in this text and see how it applies to us in the fullness of what you want to pour out for us. And I ask that, Father, as I I just I ask that you be with my mouth and my tongue and the understanding of my mind, that it is not my mind that speaks when it comes to your word, Father, but I ask that you just guard my mouth and guard my lips and guard my thoughts, and that you would do that with everyone here as we approach you in this sacred place, Father. And the closer we get to you, Father, it's like a husband and a wife who, the more vulnerable you are, the more careful you have to be, and the more wise you have to be with how you handle each other and how you love one another. So, Father, let us meet with you in the secret place, naked and unafraid, but also ready to receive the fullness of what you have for us. And I thank you for this prayer, Father. I thank you for the faith within me that knows that it is so. And I thank you for everyone listening, and I thank you for the work that you will continually pour out in all of our lives, for the seeds that will be sown in your word today. Let us receive the fullness of what it is. So we thank you and we praise you, and we just invite you in every space in this moment. And we lift these things up to you in gratitude. In the name of Yahushua HaMashiach. Amen.
Amen.
Alrighty.
Amen.
Let me see. I have my scriptures open, and it's just going to take me a second to figure out where to start. All right. I think I'm going to start at 29 and sort of talk. I picked apart 29 a little bit in our YeshaYahu study thread. And I don't think I'm going to be able to read through all of it all the way, because I know it ties into, it builds up through 32. And I don't know how much I'm going to cover. And one of the beautiful things about YeshaYahu is there are certain chapters which kind of feed each other, but there are also some things that, like, I think this 29 is sort of the beginning of a concept, or the beginning of a thought, whereas you don't necessarily need as much of what's before. I have to be really careful when I say that, but I really think that, it doesn't matter that you're not fully caught up, I guess is what I'm saying. But man, what I think, and I guess to set where I think that this is examining the inner parts of what Jerusalem is supposed to be, examining not even necessarily the covenant people versus the other nations at this point. There's a little bit of that, but this is experiencing those who walk in the fullness of the promise and those who sort of like don't. And there's different ways that we're going to, I think, explore that. And I hope that I'm going to articulate this correctly. Okay. I'm going to read YeshaYahu 29, I think 1 down through 6 or something, or 7. We'll see how it goes. Ariel is this name of this city. Ari in Hebrew means lion. So this name of this city is Lion of Elohim, is what this is. Whatever this is the Lion of Elohim, right? And we actually, yeah. So keeping that in mind, this is not talking about physical cities. I think we don't want to ignore that when we're looking at these texts and we're looking at names and cities and peoples, that there was physical elements to all of these things. But we're so deeply thinking about this in the spirit, and it's a spiritual nature or a spiritual people or a spiritual city, which is like a collection of people, or it's, so yeah. But anyway, I guess, yeah. Woe to Ariel, so the Lion of Elohim, the city where David dwelt. Add year to year, let festivals come around, and I shall distress Ariel, and there shall be mourning and sorrow, and it shall be to me as Ariel. And I shall encamp against you all around, and I shall lay siege against you with a mound, and I shall raise siege works against you, and you shall be brought low, and speak out of the ground, and your speech shall be low, out of the dust, and your voice shall be like a medium's out of the ground, and your speech whisper out of the dust. But the crowd of those strange to you shall be like fine dust, and the crowd of the ruthless ones as chaff blowing away. And it shall be in an instant, suddenly. You shall be visited by Yahuwah of hosts with thunder, earthquake, and great noise, with whirlwind and storm and flame of devouring fire. Then the crowd of all the Gentiles who fight against Ariel, even all who fight against her and her stronghold, and distrust her, shall be as a dream and of a night vision. All right, so it then goes into how that actually manifests. But so 1 through 7 is presenting this. There's literally a people, the lion of the lion of Elohim, which is very deeply rooted to the lion of Judah, which is very deeply rooted to the line of David, which I think this is the whole point. Where David dwelt, he was known as a man with the heart of a lion. This is something that was evident in his spirit. So I think we're talking about this sort of redeeming reign city that is supposed to exist in righteousness and goodness and seeking after the heart of the Father. And it's supposed to be this fierce place of defense of the Father's ways, like a lion. So it's not a physical city, but it's a people group and a body of people who operate in the state of being a lion, the place where David dwelt. So year after year, let festivals come around. So they're celebrating, they're keeping covenant to some degree, right? And there shall be mourning and sorrow, and I shall encamp against you and lay siege against you. So literally, it's saying that there's some city where there should be a certain characteristic of life force emanating from within the city. And this city has a barrier because you wouldn't need siege weapons if there wasn't something bared up against it. So the Most High is literally saying, you have yourselves bared up in a barrier that I'm going to tear down. I shall raise siege works against you, and you shall be brought low. Why? And jumping down to verse 6, why is all of this going to happen? The people that are within this city who are of the Father, who should be walking a certain way, are about to be brought low, as well as those who are oppressing the people, as well as those who are fighting against them and pressing them. The Father's not going to act any differently. He doesn't say that there's going to be any different behavior, but it says, you shall be visited by Yahuwah of hosts with thunder and earthquake and great noise and whirlwind and storm and flame of devouring fire. Could this be physical and whatever? No, this is talking about, we've discussed thunder, which I think is, it's either Ra'ash or Ra'am, because earthquake is the other one. I forget which one it is. Yeah, which is very interesting because thunder, I think it's Ra'ash. The root word for thunder is roar, like a lion. And earthquake, which is Ra'am, I think, or I'm getting them confused. I'd have to look. Maybe it's the other way around. Ra'am would make more sense to be thunder because of the mem. I'm getting on a tangent. Doesn't really matter. Ra'am or Ra'ash, the root words are either roar or a shaking or a quaking or a rattling. So literally, Yahuwah is saying, I am going to visit this place with thunder and earthquake and great noise and whirlwind and storm. And these things are purification, conviction, truth and righteousness, revelation of darkness, like arise in power and authority and remove, like there's so many things that are going to be manifested in this place, but he's going to be visited. Like this land is going to be visited by the Torah and bathed in it. And those who oppress are going to be turned to fine dust to the point of being blown away. But there will be a people that, it says, verse 4, you shall be brought low and speak out of the ground. So ground and dust is humiliation. When the serpent was cursed to crawl in his belly and eat dust all of his days, obviously snakes don't eat dust. It's saying you will consume for your energy the lowest of the low, the refuse of the earth, the absolute lowest and brokenest parts of what humanity is made of. This is dust. When you sprinkle dust on your head, sackcloth and ashes, you're sprinkling the lowest state of your being on your head to cover yourself in the lowest state. So it's saying you shall be brought low and speak out of the ground. So your voice will be brought so humble. That voice that used to be in arrogance and straying and whatever else it was, that voice shall speak out of the ground and be brought low. Your speech shall be low. Out of the dust, your voice shall be like a medium's out of the ground, and your speech whisper out of the dust. So it's not the same thing as being blown away. So there's this promise of, I don't know where to go from that. There's a difference in judgment. The Father's going to visit, and it's going to be different slightly. There's still going to be a reckoning, a deep reckoning for those who should be operating in a way that, I think this ties into a conversation you and I were talking about, and YeshaYahu and I were talking about, when it comes to the Yahudim and and all sorts of things, and being a people that they should be, and not ending up being that way. It's so deep. But anyway, um, I'm going to cover a little bit in verse 8 what the punishment will be and why this is evident, and you can see this in people. It shall be as when a hungry man dreams and see he eats, but as he awakes his being is empty. Or as when a thirsty man dreams and see he drinks, but when he awakes and see he is faint, and his being is longing. Thus shall the crowd of all the Gentiles be who fight against Mount Zion. So here's how it's going to be evident in what is happening. So it's kind of, this whole verse is like just really, really, I don't know, difficult, I think. When a hungry man dreams and see he eats, so basically he's hungry in the physical. He's literally a hungry man. He has literal, legitimate hunger. And when he's dreaming, there's this sort of illusion of food, and he eats and he's fully satisfied in this other dimension, in this other state, while he's asleep, while his actual being is asleep, and he consumes all these things in the state of slumber. When he awakes, he finds that there's zero substance in it. When a hungry man dreams and he sees and he eats, this is this type of people who say they have the Father. These are the type of people who, like, this is a curse upon the people who do not actually submit themselves to the Most High, that they will be hungry for things of truth and wisdom and rightness and all of these things. And they will eat in their state of slumber, and they will consume things. But when they wake up, it's going to be a state of emptiness. Thus shall be the crowd of all the Gentiles, basically, who fight against Mount Zion. And this is literally evident. It's not just all the people in covenant. It's people who fight verbally against the fullness of what the Most High does. And there are people who claim the name of the Most High. There are people who do so many things that are actually fall into the category of people who are fighting against Mount Zion. And you can see that in how they work and they strive. They try to find the kingdom. They try to find the things of the Spirit, but they're just hungry and they're empty and they're craving and they're longing, and it's not sustained. And I think we all know people like that. We all know groups of people like that. So this is a sort of spiritual slumber that is, I don't know, poured out. I'm skipping to verse 11 because this is the Most High addressing those people that don't see. Because in the entire vision is to you like the words of a book that is sealed, which meant, and again, please understand the context of literally the Kodesh books. This is what it's talking about. The entire vision is to you like the words of a book that is sealed, which men give to one who knows books, meaning like as a husband knows a wife, to thoroughly understand the nature of books, to read and be able to know them intimately. So one who knows books, saying, read this, please. And he said, I am unable, for it is sealed. This sort of seal doesn't mean like a physical lock, and it's evident in the next verse. This is sort of meaning like how when something is coded and you have to sort of decipher it to unlock the meaning, how the seven scrolls, the one who's worthy to open the seals, it's not necessarily, it's an unlocking of something. And so what he's saying is this entire vision to you is going to be like a book that is sealed and it's given to you. And people who know how to read, people who are familiar with books, are going to look at this book and say, I can't read it because it's sealed to me. Then the book is given to one who does not know books. So one who doesn't know how to read, one who doesn't know what to do with books, says, and saying, read this, please. And he says, I've not known books. Because when you pick up this Bible, when you pick up the scriptures, when you pick up the Kodesh books, when you pick up the things of the Spirit, to somebody who has no idea how to read, to somebody who has no idea what the difference is in these things, there's no visible difference. There's no actual physical lock or barrier that keeps one from being able to read this. There's no difference. But it's the one who knows books, and there's still a ceiling on it. And so there's this deep image and profound way of like the deep meaning behind all of these things is found behind this seal. In verse 13, it says, and Yahuwah says, because this people has drawn near with its mouth, and with its lips they have esteemed me, and it has kept its heart far from me, and their reverence of me has become a command of men that is taught. So you're following the law, you're keeping Sabbath, you're doing the things like you're checking a box because it makes you feel better. And your fear of the Most High is in all of these external things. And you praise the name of the Most High, but you're not actually allowing Him into the inner places to rip apart your being, to reverence the Father from a place of awe and wonderment and deep desiring of His nature and His ways. The command and the fear of Him is just emptiness. It's just you speak it because it makes you feel good, but it's not coming from within and filling your being. There's a difference. The fear is just a command that is taught. And the Most High says, see, I am doing again a marvelous work among this people, a marvelous work and a wonder. So it pours, he talks about in the next couple of verses, pouring out judgment. Verse 18, it says, and in that day the deaf shall hear the words of the book, and the eyes of the blind shall see out of the gloom and out of darkness. And it talks about the more of like, there's a little bit about can the potter or can the clay look at the potter and talk about like, do you know me, the one who made me? And so it's talking about this whole thing of like the Father knowing our nature and bringing us through and knowing our weakness, but being the one that pulls us back. And then it ends this chapter in verse 24, and it says, and those who went astray in spirit shall come to understanding, and the grumblers accept instruction. So verse 29 sort of like serves as this sort of like introduction of like, we're not even, there's a little bit of a mention of the Gentiles, but we're talking about this sort of judgment within like the greater body of the Most High. And yeah, so here we go. This is like verse 29. It's almost like it's like the outer layers of the onion. And then 30, we're peeling back a layer. And now 30, we're going deeper into what the Most High is even talking about with this group of people. And we see it right here, verse 30. Woe, or not verse 30, chapter 30. Woe to the stubborn children, declares Yahuwah, to make counsel, but not from me, and to devise plans, but not of my Ruach, in order to add sin to sin. So here's the great power of why not many of us should become teachers. Not many of us should begin to come from a place of authority and truth and speaking for the voice of the Father when we are not having counsel from the Father and speaking with the words of the Ruach, because it adds sin to sin. Not only do you stray in your own ways, but you literally force everybody else and cause everybody else that hears you and listens to you to just layers and layers upon sin. It is a depth upon depth to cause your mind to stray in stubbornness and to speak with counsel and to lead and devise plans that are not actually submitted fully to the Ruach. So woe to these stubborn children in verse 2, who are walking to go down to Mitzrayim and have not asked my mouth, to be strengthened in the strength of Pharaoh and to seek refuge in the shadow of Mitzrayim. And the strength of Pharaoh shall become your shame, and the refuge in the shadow of Mitzrayim your confusion. So how the heck did Ariel, this Lion of Elohim, this thing that's supposed to be this city where David dwelt, where there's rulership and stewardship and authority in the kingdom, how did that people become someone that is going to be brought to dust, right? They walk down to Mitzrayim. They have not asked the mouth of the Most High, and they have sought strength in the strength of Pharaoh to seek refuge in the shadow of Mitzrayim. So this is Mitzrayim represents bondage, represents, and it pops up in all of Israel's history of seeking the chariots of Mitzrayim and the reeds of Mitzrayim and the produce of Mitzrayim and the horses of Mitzrayim. In the wilderness, after being delivered, they lusted after slavery for the refineries of the flesh that they could indulge in Mitzrayim. So Mitzrayim carries this place of great bondage and indulgence of pleasure and indulgence of flesh. It is seeking provision and protection and strength and might in things of the world and things outside of the Father. And when you bow yourself and you submit yourself to those things, it's called Mitzrayim because it puts a bondage, a yoke. And then why is this all detrimental? And the strength of Pharaoh, so the chief, where all of the authority of Mitzrayim rests upon, the ruler of Mitzrayim, the ruler of this bondage, who holds your now being in his hands, shall become your shame. In the refuge and the shadow of Mitzrayim, your confusion. So every time you seek refuge, strength, deliverance, power, understanding things and the things of this world before, not that, I mean, there's literally evidence where kings were led to have peace treaties and to work in peace with nations. This is not the Father saying, don't be at peace and work with people and have teamwork with people. This is literally saying, you have not asked my mouth. You have not sought me first in the places of your decisions, and you have bowed before things of this world, and you have brought bondage, and you have put yourself under the covering of something that is less than me. And in the end, it is being shame and a shadow of confusion. Let's see. I'm going to skip a little bit. I guess I'll stop. I'm going to stop there. I'm going to stop there, and we're going to get in verse 30. I've talked a lot so far. And if nobody has anything to say, I can just keep on talking, but I just want to make space for someone else to have words. And if this is making sense, if I'm making sense in what I'm communicating, and if it's, yeah, thoughts, anybody or not.
It's good. It's making sense to me. And I can definitely like relate because I feel like I've been in that place, you know,
Mm-hmm.
in my own walk. And so, yeah, makes perfect
Yeah,
sense. Mm.
same. All right. Well, I will keep going, I suppose. This I found interesting. I highlighted it because it's interesting. So there's a pause. And the Most High then says, and go write it before them. So he's now addressing YeshaYahu, he's addressing Isaiah. And he says, go write it before them on a tablet and inscribe it on a scroll, that it is for a latter day, a witness forever. That this is a rebellious people, lying children, children who refuse to hear the Torah of Yahuwah, who say to the seers, do not see, and to the Nebiim, do not nabah to us what is right, speak to us what is smooth, and nabah deceits. Turn away from the way, swerve from the path, cause the Kodesh one of Israel to cease from before us. Okay. So first of all, this is literally saying that this is for a latter day, which is fascinating. This is a rebellious people, lying children, children who refuse to hear the Torah of Yahuwah. There are some people in the Torah community who would literally take that and lash Christians with it and make people just think that you have to keep Torah perfectly and that is a rebellious people for not keeping Torah. No, the Torah of the Most High is love. The Torah of the Most High is mercy. The Torah of the Most High is loving the Most High with all your heart, mind, soul, and strength, and loving your neighbor as yourself. What does the Most High require of you, O man? To seek justice, love mercy, and walk humbly before your Most High. The Torah is simply those little guide rules that allow us to pick apart the exact situations and how to navigate them because we need those things and help. But This is children who refuse to hear the fullness of love, the fullness of the Kodesh books that are meant to be our mirror, that are not meant to be what we whip the world with, but what we allow the Father to use us, to refine us. So those who refuse to Shema, the Torah, which is the perfect definition of goodness in this life of Yahuwah, who say to the seers, so people who are speaking truth, people who are trying to speak about this coming kingdom and the truth of the fullness of it, they say, do not see what we're doing. Do not talk to us. Do not call us out on this. Do not prophesy to us what is right, because we like what makes us feel good. We are happy in our ways. Prophesy to us that we are doing what we're supposed to be doing. Turn away from us, get away from us. Like this fire, so the Kodesh one of Yisrael, the fire, the light of the world, the revealer of the world, the being who refines all people, Messiah, when you hold Messiah and how we're supposed to walk, and you hold the Kodesh books up against people's behaviors, they don't like it. So they say, take him away from us, cease from before us.
Or yeah.
There, yeah.
When you're talking about like the rebellious children, and I hear what you're saying, like, but also like in the previous chapter, like verses 18, when it's talking about the deaf shall hear and the blind shall see, do you think it's like it? I hear you're saying it's people that are in like in the faith that are just not quite seeing things right and they're a little rebellious. But do you think that that's
Hmm.
also maybe people who don't believe yet that are maybe meant to be like just for example like people like my husband like it seems like maybe they are supposed to be in the body but they're just rebellious, they're not there yet.
Yeah,
um
no, I fully agree. I think you're spot on. I think that's the beauty of like when you're looking at just tunnel vision towards a scripture, you can gather so much of it, but you miss the heart of where these patterns are evident in depth upon depth throughout the rest of the scripture, and where there's also this promise about the rebellious people who know him. He also says, every knee shall bow and every tongue confess, and the whole world will be filled with the glory of the Most High and the worship of his name. And there is still this promise. And I think it carries on and carries out, but there's also a righteous order of how these things sort of fall out. So if this is like the chief of where his people are supposed to rule from this place, he's got to fix and purify this place first. And then I think all
mhm,
of those other
okay.
places are sort of purified from that place. So this is like we're looking at the head or the beginning point of where this promise is going to begin to sort of like he has to wreak havoc and bathe the entire world in the Torah, including his people.
Hmm.
And from the remnants of that, he begins to build up this righteousness that then draws the rest of the world into these waters of life and this life and nourishment. And I fully believe that your husband is included in that because he's literally partnered with your soul. So, like, he's in for a wild ride, you know what I mean? But, like, I definitely think that this is for him and for everyone who bears witness to the light as it is revealed because um I mean, at the end of the day, it's all brokenness and it's all misperception because anybody that sees the Father clearly, anybody, any human soul that comes from Him, that truly actually sees Him clearly for the first time, free of misconceptions, free of damaged neural pathways, when the light is fully revealed and they see all the things that they've been scared to receive and they see the fullness of the Father's love for them in that moment, every knee will bow and every tongue will confess because there will be no barriers of the flesh. There will be nothing. The greatest of the inheritance are for those who willingly choose him now. There's a rulership and a structure, but I fully believe when the Most High says every knee will bow and every tongue will confess, I think that there's a truth to that that religion does not want to acknowledge, but because it keeps people in fear, it keeps people in this cycle of hellfire and brimstone, but the fire is the Torah and he will bathe the world in it. And the
Mhm.
process of seeing the light is going to be pleasurable for some people and deeply painful for others. But I think that each human soul will choose the light because because I think that's the point of it all. And that's just my 2 cents. I could be wrong and all that, but that's just where my
Mhm.
spirit feels at this moment. And I don't know if that was a bit of a tangent.
Yeah,
Thank you
no,
for
that's
asking.
good. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. Oh my goodness. All right. Um, mm, where to go? Where to go? Here's something interesting. Okay, so here's part of this judgment, right? So here's this people that's supposed to be used as rulership within the kingdom of the Most High. And verse 14, this is part of the judgment, and it's really interesting. It gives a really beautiful sort of image of our purpose. So he's a potter, and it talks about the potter and the clay. He fashions us. He literally forms us for his purposes. And a clay vessel is meant to contain the glory of the Father. It can contain water. It can contain wine, right? This is something can contain fire, which is something interesting. He says, he shall break it like the breaking of a potter's vessel, which is broken in pieces without sparing, so that there is not found among its fragments assured to take fire from the hearth or to take water from the cistern. For thus says the Adon Yahuwah, the Kodesh One of Israel, in returning and rest you are saved, in the stillness and in trust is your strength. But you would not. So he's literally saying, I have the fullness of this kingdom for you, and you continually deny me. In this purpose that I have formed you for, to contain the fires of my Ruach, and to contain the waters of living life from my cistern, I am going to break apart your fragments, and there will be nothing left of you that is worthy to continue to carry that light of fire. There's going to be nothing left of you to be able to pour out in water and water these people, because there's going to be nothing left of your own strength. And it goes back to that returning to dust, but it's just a different sort of imagery that the purpose of this clay vessel is brought to nothing, and there's no fragment left to carry the weight of any amount of its purpose. Why? And what's the point of it all? In returning, which is teshuva, in teshuva and in rest, you are saved. In stillness and in trust is your strength, but you would not. And you said no, for we flee upon horses, therefore you flee. And we ride on swift horses, therefore those who pursue you are swift. So literally he's saying, I am crying out to you to find your peace in me, to find the fullness of the kingdom as I bring it forth, and you would not see. You rely on the strength of your horses, and even the fact that you have very swift horses. And the Most High says, see, you rely on your own strength. Therefore, those assigned against you are also swift, and you will be basically running for the rest of your days. 1,000 at the rebuke of one. At the rebuke of 5, you shall flee until you are left as a pole on top of a mountain, as a sign on top of a hill. So this is basically like, because you are supposed to be a people and you have the name of the Most High on your forehead, but it is empty, the weapons assigned against you are still great, but you have an empty ability to sustain in your strength, and you are striving and striving and striving, and then you're just going to be fleeing forever, basically. Um, let's see. Oh, and here we go. Then it begins to come into this promise. Therefore, Yahuwah shall wait to show you favor, and therefore he shall be exalted to have compassion on you. So here's this beautiful full circle moment of like, again, how does this people get astray? What are the characteristics? How is it evident? But it doesn't even matter, because the Most High can show you the truth of the error of your ways. And in the end of it all, he says, and therefore he shall be exalted to have compassion on you. For Yahuwah is an Elohim of right ruling, and Baruch are all those who wait for him. For the people shall dwell in Zion at Jerusalem, the city of peace. You shall weep no more, and shall show much favor and he shall show much favor to you at the sound of your cry, and when he hears, he shall answer you. Though Yahuwah gave you bread of adversity and water of affliction, so basically, like your being was strengthened and sustained, like what literally fed you, what goes into your body is what becomes your strength and your sustenance. So the Most High is literally saying, I strengthened your being through adversity, and I fed you the waters of affliction, what fueled your innermost parts. Your teacher shall no longer be hidden, but your eyes shall see your teacher. So we've been stumbling around in the darkness. We've been eating the bread of affliction. We've been stumbling and we've been drinking this water of affliction and adversity. But he said, no longer shall your teacher, which is the Kodesh books, no longer is the fullness of the inheritance of the kingdom, which is the knowledge of the ways of Elohim, which is the ability to walk in the darkness and not see it as darkness but light. Like there's so much behind that. Your teacher, the Most High, his Ruach, wisdom in all things, shall no longer be hidden, but your eyes shall see your teacher. This is not saying that you're no longer going to be in darkness and no longer whatever, but you're going to see clearly the things that are teaching you. And your ears shall hear a word behind you saying, this is the way, walk in it. Whenever you turn to the right or whenever you turn to the left. This imagery of like a voice behind you is that your ears are faced forwards. Biologically, the sound waves are whatever you're looking at is what you're perceiving. So when it says it shall be as a voice behind you saying this way, walk in it, it means you have to have your eyes perceiving one thing, but your ears have to be aware of something that's actually difficult to hear. But it's going to be there, and you're going to be able to listen and discern it, and it's going to say this way or that way. Let's see. It says, you shall defile the covering of your graven images of silver and the plating of your molded images of gold, and you shall throw them away as a menstrual cloth and say to them, be gone. Which is beautiful because menstruation in the Hebrew language, that blood is the same sort of blood that could carry the energy of death because a woman could miscarry, have no idea, and it could literally be like death cells in her menstruation. So when you're talking about life and death and the need to be physically pure to enter the presence of the Most High, menstruation was seen as literally the same level of, not because she was filthy, but because the level of potential that it's carrying death was to be fleed from, because if you touched death in the presence of a holy God, you were burned up. So this image of throw it away as a menstrual cloth, it's basically like you didn't realize that right up against your being was death energy, and you look at that and you need to discard that. You shall defile the coverings of your graven images of silver. So the things that you built for yourself, the things that you put as idols in your heart, the things that caused you to drink the wine of false doctrines and all of these different things, your idols, you will throw them away as a menstrual cloth because you'll be so disgusted with them within your being, and you will say, be gone. And then the Most High begins to say, I will pour out the rain in its season and sow the seed with good, and your increase will be in bread, and it will be fat and rich, and your cattle will be grazing. And so here's this pour out of this promise of this redemption on these people. Verse 27, see, the name of Yahuwah is coming from afar, burning with his wrath and heavy smoke. His lips shall be filled with rage, and his tongue be as a devouring fire. It begins about this like overflow of this wrath. His breath shall be as an overflowing streams. It reaches up to the neck, which is like the image of you're about to die. You can't take anymore. When something goes over your head, you're done. So he's saying like up to the very last place where you're able to sustain life, he is going to flood this place with his overflowing breath, and up to the neck of these people, and um sift out the falsehood, and it's going to be this massive judgment, but it's smoke and truth and Torah. And this is, let the song be to you as a night, a kadosh for a festival, and gladness of heart as he who is going with the flute to come into the mountain of Yahuwah, to the rock of Israel. And Yahuwah shall cause his excellent voice to be heard and show the coming down of his arm with raging wrath and with the flame of consuming fire. Um, so it's basically like he's sort of dancing around this great wrath and this great judgment towards wickedness. But like the result isn't weeping and gnashing of teeth. He's talking about the song, rejoice, the gladness of heart, to come into the mountain of Yahuwah, to the rock of Israel, which is this new thing that he's ripping it apart and bringing as a new foundation. Um, all right, I think that's it for that section. Um,
Shalom, Josiah.
Shalom.
Hello, Shalom.
Shalom, shalom.
I just
Shalom, shalom.
I had to sleep in, so I just kind of woke up, so I'm sorry I'm late, but it's good to see you guys.
Yeah, no worries. We're not used to having you, so any of your presence is, welcomed.
I still have to figure out the time zone thing. I think you guys are 3 hours different, right? So, what time on Saturday do you guys start the Zoom?
Uh,
It's 7 a.m. in our time zone.
Okay, okay.
Sorry about that. That's rough. So,
Mhm.
I'm not a morning bird.
uh, I'm grateful that I get up when I do, but I can understand that. To be
But
up and ready and present for a study at 7 a.m., I give you
it's like a
props.
sunrise service.
It is. It is. It really does welcome in the day. But yeah, I respect you for 7 a.m. I mean, and you get up earlier too. But anyway, uh, all right. Um, I feel like I'm really, really talking a lot, and I'm hoping it's not just words. I'm trying to figure out how to proceed.
How
It's
are
all
you guys all
making sense
doing?
to me. It seems like it's going more in depth of what it's already kind of touched on earlier. Like I
Mhm.
said, I'm like up to 18 now, and so a lot of the things that you're saying is like reminding me of some stuff that I've read back there. So it's good. It's making sense.
Yeah, absolutely. Um, yeah, yeah, I've noticed that as well. I've noticed that sort of like it's almost like I'm exploring the depths of this real live unfolding prophecy real time. And it's like he's getting looks at different aspects of the same thing.
Hmm.
And that's why you like have different flavors of it in each of these different chapters as he explores like the imagery and how he communicates. It might be slightly different with different names of different cities and like how the judgment comes about and how the right ruling comes about and how the rise of his people comes about. But it definitely sort of has this weaving of the same thing. It's all the same thing.
Hmm.
And I didn't ever notice that before. This is my, like, I've read through YeshaYahu in the past, and this is my first time seeing the depth of the layers of prophecy and the spiritual kingdom, like, in all of this.
Hmm. And I will say this is
Um,
like the first time like reading through this, like even when I first started back in chapter one, I was struggling a little bit to understand like the spiritual aspects of it, but I'm like understanding it more so in this last week of reading, and I think it goes back to exactly what we're saying here is like that really seeking Abba, like for the depths of like all these things, for the understanding and not seeking these outside sources and what other, you know, just really seeking the Father to want to know and understand, having that desire. So,
yeah. Yeah, I agree. And It's deeply rewarding and edifying every time you actually apply like your mind to these things because he just inevitably like reveals himself in depth upon depth. So I'm deeply grateful for this time in YeshaYahu. It's been amazing. So to continue on in that, we explored 29, and 29 sort of acted as like this sort of really broad idea of what the Father sees and he says is going to happen. And then in 30, we sort of get one layer down and you see how is the state of this people even come to be? Why is this people going through this judgment? What is the evidence of what they're going to experience and the details of how these judgments are going to play out? And I think 31, which I don't know for sure because I just was reading through 31 and 32 this morning, and I didn't even finish all the way in 32, to be honest. I got like to halfway through verse or chapter 32. But I think based on the introduction of chapter 31, it's yet another depth. It's sort of like it's going to have a sort of repetitive feel to it, but it's when the Father repeats things, when the Father says, "Hey, this is something. Hey, here's this thing, but in a slightly different perspective. Hey, here's this exact thing again in a slightly different perspective." He's like, "Hey, this is really important. Pay attention to what I'm telling you and look at all the different ways that you can perceive this." So in 31, you're going to recognize it's literally saying kind of the same things, just like we're dumb. Like the Most High knows that we need it again and again and again and again, and we need to be bathed in it for us to get it. But anyway, I'm going to go back in 31. Woe to those who go down to Mitzrayim for help and rely on horses, who trust in chariots because they are many, and in horsemen because they are very strong, but who do not look to the Kodesh One of Israel, nor seek Yahuwah. It's again, it's just a reiteration of this thing of going down to seek the strength of outside sources, seek the things that end up putting you into a bondage to it. You claim the strength of it, you put yourself into submission to it, like that's bondage, and that's your strength now. So, nor are you seeking Yahuwah. Um, Gosh, why don't I don't have anything highlighted from 2 all the way to 8, but I'm just going to keep reading because it mentions a lion. So we're going to see. Verse 2, and he also is wise and has brought evil and has not turned aside his words, and he shall rise up against the house of evildoers and against the help of the workers of wickedness. So this is basically like the Most High says he's also wise. He knows your ways. He's not blinded to what you're doing, and he's brought evil. He's speaking curses against you, and he's not turned aside to his words. So this judgment, you're not going to escape it. He shall rise up against the house of evildoers and against the help of the workers of wickedness. And the Mitzrites are men and not El. So they're not powers, and horses are flesh and not spirit. And when Yahuwah stretches out his hand, both he who helps shall stumble, and he who is helped shall fall, and they shall fall together. So both those who put people into bondage by waving power and waving deliverance and waving healing and waving this and all of that, when you seek these things, not only are you going to be basically brought to nothing and brought to shame and stumble because you're submitting yourself to lesser power and authority to seek deliverance and healing and all the things and knowledge and truth and whatever else it is. But also those who have put you in bondage are destined to fall. They shall fall together, and you will be wrapped up in who you seek for your authority and truth, who you seek for your authority in manna and sustenance and truth and all of these things. I keep saying truth. Truth is very important, obviously. For this is what Yahuwah has said to me, as a lion roars and a young lion over his prey. Though a band of shepherds is called out against him, he is not afraid of their voice, nor disturbed by their noise. So Yahuwah of hosts shall come down to fight upon Mount Zion and upon its hill. So here we have, going back all the way to verse 29, is Ariel. Ari is lion. The Lion of El is supposed to be this city, this spiritual energy that sustains where the city of Most High, where the kingdom of the Most High is ruled from, the city of David, this Lion of Elohim, Why? And then looking at this, as a lion roars and a young lion over his prey, which is fierceness and confidence. And it says, though a band of shepherds. So these beings, these things that are designed to defend and potentially slay them, a band of shepherds is called out against them. He is not afraid of their voice nor disturbed by their noise. So Yahweh of hosts shall come down to fight upon Mount Zion and upon his hill. So it's sort of like there's a place for this lion that's meant to be there, and the Most High is going to come down like a roaring lion and make it right. Like hovering birds, so does Yahuwah of hosts protect Yerushalayim, protect and delivering, passing over and rescuing. Turn back to him from whom the children of Israel have fallen deeply away. For in that day let each man reject his idols of silver and his idols of gold, which your own hands have made for yourselves as a sin. So this is basically saying that he is going to come down and he is going to wreak havoc, and it's going to be, again, it's just saying the same things. It's for his name's sake. It's to replace this artificial strength that's supposed to be there with his fierceness, and it's a defense of, I mean, it's absolute. And then carrying into verse 32, this is where I've had conversations with Josiah, I've had conversations with YeshaYahu, and even just in this Mishpachah and these studies about these pockets of New Zion. I know Jackie and Jerry have been in this conversation in the past. It's sort of been sprinkled in. This prophetic destiny of New Zion isn't this like one massive city descending in a supernatural puff of smoke and like changing the world and just rippling through. The prophecy is these cities or these mountains rising up in truth and in righteousness. So here we've gone through this promise, we've gone through this like judgment of the Most High, calling out the status of this city that is meant to be where he rules from, but it's contaminated and he's about to judge it and wreak havoc on it. But what happens when you're brought to nothing? What happens when you are brought to dust, as it says in chapter 29? The nations will be brought to dust and blow away. Those who are oppressing you will be brought to dust and blown away. But you yourself are brought to dust. You yourself are brought to the very ends of yourself. And then verse 32 is sort of why. What's the purpose of all of this? Because the Most High, for his name's sake, is coming down to raise you up, to stitch you together, to cause us to judge and discern rightly. And so 32 is sort of like, again, I'm only like halfway through 32. I don't know how it wraps up, but I have a lot highlighted in it. It's sort of like just overall, this entire section is like, here's the frailty of the work of my hands, but for my name's sake, I'm gonna rise you up from the ashes and give you this thing. And this is what we're seeing in 32. See, a sovereign shall righteousness, and rulers rule and right ruling. And each one shall be as a hiding place from the wind and a shelter from the downpour, as the rivers of water in a dry place, as the shadow of a great rock in a weary land. And the eyes of those who see are not dim, and the ears of those who hear listen. And the heart of the rash understand knowledge, and the tongue of the stammerers hurry to speak plainly. A fool is no longer called noble, nor a scoundrel said to be respectable. For a fool speaks folly, and his heart works wickedness, to practice filthiness, and to speak against Yahuwah, that which misleads, to starve the being of the hungry, and to withhold the drink from the thirsty. And the methods of the scoundrel are evil, and he has devised wicked plans to destroy the poor with words of falsehood. Even when the needy pleads for right ruling, but the generous one devises what is generous, and by generous deeds he rises up. Rise, and this is so this verse 9 is getting ready to call a very specific flavor of energy, which I think is very interesting. So he's basically saying that the people who initially we see in the beginning, they are astray. They already a part of his people. They already has his name. They already see so much of the truth, but they still need to be brought to nothing because these are the people that will inevitably rule in his nation. And it's why we resonate with it because I've been here. Yeah, Josiah.
Is this the book of Sirach?
This is YeshaYahu. This is, oh, Isaiah. This is Isaiah.
Oh,
Yeah,
oh
sorry.
wow.
This is Isaiah. I started in 29, 30, 31, and now we're in 32. Um, this is not
Is
normally
it-
how studies go, and other people can, this is not normal. It's usually more like collective and not just me talking. So,
I'm just
um,
trying to catch up of like where you guys are at a little bit, and I know that's probably not possible just because I'm a latecomer. But I just wanted to kind of know what you guys were talking about. I'm picking up bits of it and the
yeah.
little bits that I'm understanding, but I didn't know if this comes from the Book of Sirach or are you guys still
Um,
studying that?
Yeah, slowly but surely. That's typically our Saturday morning studies. I think this Saturday, though, we're going to use that space to talk of the testimony and just to share and reflect on this weekend. But
Yeah.
typically, it's our Saturday morning studies that we're going through Sirach. Um, but yeah, so I also think after all of this, once I get through 32, I think there's going to be a space for us all to just discuss all the things. And I think you'll naturally begin to just pick up on the stuff that you're a little late on getting because it's literally just the same stuff repeated in different depths, which is beautiful, but also I think you'll be able to gather it. um so it's basically talking about like if you follow this people, clearly these people are supposed to rule, and after this bathing of the Torah and being washed, he talks about raising up these people and righteousness and right ruling. And each one of these people that are then risen up into this place of right ruling, which is the city of David, right? Which is that place of kingship and rulership, which is an assignment on some people's lives and not others, and that's fine. Um, but these beings, these people, these cities that are risen up to rule and right ruling, it's the people that were originally fed the bread of adversity and the waters of affliction, that there is a people that is brought to the very end of themselves in humiliation and brought to dust, but it is from that place that they're actually risen up and given the ability to rule and judge rightly. And from this place, it says, and each one shall be as a hiding place from the wind and a shelter from the downpour, as rivers of water in a dry place, as the shadow of a great rock in a weary land. This is talking about spiritual nature. So, wind of the spirit is something that causes disturbance and, like it tests the strength of a home, and like to have wind constantly is a form of spiritual test and tribulation. Shelter from the downpour, the waters. When you have a downpour, it tests how strong your roots are in the soil. Um, it gauges how well the soil around you is cultivated to drain water, or if it's stagnant and it doesn't allow things. The rivers of water in a dry place, which is like the bringing of life, and um, it's the shadow of a rock in a weary land. So something, not a rock. It's like picturing this massive cliff that overhangs in a desert and being able to come into this oasis of shade and rest. So he raises up these people from the ashes of their own destruction for his name's sake, brings them into kingship, and makes them a refuge from spiritual tribulation for people, a shelter for people from spiritual downpours and judgment. And they become rivers of water, so sources of living waters of life for dry places, people who have no access, no connection to the Spirit. As the shadow of a great rock in a weary land, as this world is bathed in darkness, it's basically scorched and thirsty for living water, but it's parched and desolate. And the people who are risen up provide a place of rest and comfort and shelter. And it doesn't say that they provide everything that they need, but it's a place in which the Father can begin to minister to them. And it says, the eyes of those who see are not dim, and the ears of those who hear listen, and the heart of the rash understand knowledge, and the tongue of the stammerers hurry to speak plainly. So it's talking about this transformation that begins to take place. The people will see clearly, hear clearly. People who used to think rashly in their hearts and discern things in their own judgment, they're going to understand knowledge. And people who used to not have control and articulation over their tongue and they used to stammer in their speech, it doesn't mean necessarily a physical speech impediment. It means you say things and then you take it back and you question the things and you don't stand by your word. Stammerers hurry to speak plainly. And then it continues down. It talks about this new working of comparing the old ways to the new ways. And then in verse 9, it addresses women. So yes, it's going to be physical women because women are the place in which life comes forth. It's the connection to the Shemayim where a soul is brought forth. Women are responsible for shaping the hearts of men and in their access to the spirit and how they discern the world. And a woman could raise a king or a woman could raise a manipulator. So it is talking about women and the responsibility of women, but it's also talking about, I believe, I'm just going to read it. I'm going to read it, and maybe the way to articulate it is going to, I don't think it's necessarily women over their individual lives per se. I think it's something deeper. So in 9, it says, rise up, you women who are at ease. This is what it is. So the churches and the doctrines of men are referred as women, right? So you have harlots in the Old Testament who are doctrines of these idols that caused men to go astray. And it's why they weren't supposed to intermarry and intermix. You have Lady Zion and you have the bride of Messiah, and in bodies of people manifest as a presence of a feminine nature, a feminine body. This is where doctrines pour forth from. So milk and honey comes from the woman. There is this element of provision and protection and life force that comes from what a woman's energy is, and it's evident in physical man, but this is talking more about bodies of people. So as a woman shapes the heart of her son, right? As the woman shapes the heart of her son and lifts him into his purpose, and she can either train his heart and his soul to be a manipulator and abuser, or she can shape the heart of this man into being a fair and just and good king and the council and all of these things. So it's saying these spiritual places, these cities, these mountains, these bodies of people that represent the bride of Christ. Rise up, you women who are bodies who are responsible for cultivating the sons and daughters, for cultivating the hearts of man. This is where I think the depths of it are. And I could be wrong, but I don't think it's just talking about women in the physical. I think it's the spiritual roles assigned over bodies that are literally that milk and honey. It's sustenance, it's provision, this is, I mean, graphic, but suckling on the breast of Lady Wisdom. It's this sort of like, whatever. It's going to make sense to you or it's not. So 9, rise up, you women who are at ease. Hear my voice, you complacent daughters. Listen to my speech. In a little more than a year, you shall be troubled, you complacent women. For the grape harvest shall fail and the ingathering shall not come. And this is something that, like, if you've been in the YeshaYahu thread, this concept of wine is doctrine and life force. So when we're talking about women and the role of women to cultivate wine and to cultivate the vineyard and to bring forth through the power of the Father, but to bring forth the doctrines of man is women, in this role of this motherly nature. So you can place it, women, for the grape harvest shall fail. What is meant to be pressed and bring forth new life, bring forth new life energy, new doctrines, what is supposed to fill the people with goodness shall fail, and the ingathering shall not come. So when you're supposed to go out and sow and, pour out this life force energy and you're not doing it. The harvest fails, the spirit behind it is lacking. Um, the ingathering of the harvest, of the reaping, of the pouring out of new doctrine and the new wine, it's just not going to be evident because the great harvest fails. Again, the responsibility of the spiritual women, not me and physical women, the role of what we are creating, this mishpachah, this body of Messiah, the bride of Christ. Like there's so much behind it, but I hope you're getting what I'm saying. Tremble, you women who are at ease. So these groups of people, these doctrines of men, these bodies of believers who are at ease, be troubled, you complacent ones. Strip yourselves and make yourselves bare, and gird sackcloth on your waists. Lament upon your breasts for the pleasant fields, for the fruit-bearing vine. So literally there has to be this understanding of like lamenting because we don't have access to all the doctrines we need. We don't have there's been a loss and all of these things are meant to experience. So like girding the sackcloth and ashes and understanding the weakness and the inability of these women in the past, our spiritual mothers, these pockets of doctrine that we grow up in and that we're nursed by, where we start with milk and solid food, all of this kind of ties in. They're complacent and it's seeking in religion and seeking outside of literally ripping apart the inner being. And I think this is what it's talking about. To be complacent are these pockets of believers who represent these people who are in word and speech only, but not in action and not in heart posture. Tremble, you women who are at ease. Be troubled, you complacent ones. Strip yourselves. Become naked and bare, and gird yourself in shame and humility and meekness. Lament upon the breasts, basically the thing that you got your doctrine from, the thing that you were sustained by, for the fruit-bearing vine. Weeds and thorn brushes come up over the ground of my people, basically, like this contamination of it's just contaminating this garden that's supposed to spring forth. It's weeds, it's thorn bushes. Indeed, over all the houses of joy, the city of revelry, this place that is supposed to be joy and peace and life and goodness, for the palace of the Most High is abandoned. This crowded city that is supposed to be filled with light and filled with overflowing. And the watchtower that's meant to discern rightly and see right from evil and discern threats correctly, they're now caves lacking discernment. The joy of wild donkeys and the pasture of flocks. This is basically like demons and other ideologies and ways of man and authorities and characteristics contaminate the places that are meant to be pure, filled with sheep. Instead, they're filled with donkeys and things that are not good, things that are stubborn. Um, until the Ruach is, I haven't, this is where I stopped. So, guys, I have not read past 14. At this point, I'm just going to finish the chapter and we'll talk about whatever we talk about. For the palace is, I'm going back to 14. For the palace is abandoned, the crowded city deserted, hill and watchtower serve as caves forever, a joy of wild donkeys, a pasture of flocks, until the Ruach is poured upon us from on high. And the wilderness shall become a garden land, and the garden land be reckoned as a forest. This is basically saying the Ruach is getting ready to pour out on this wilderness that has nothing, right? 29, we're turned to dust. So we're dust now until the Ruach pours out upon us from on high. And this place of dust and ash shall become a garden. So there's going to be a garden represents growth and represents life, but it's small. But then that garden land will be reckoned as a forest. So it's talking about these steps of depth of understanding, the roots being able to go down deep. After a certain amount of time, now there's this forest and men walking around as forests with their roots down deep and their heads fully established and bearing fruit. Then right ruling shall dwell in the wilderness, and rightness remain in the garden land. The work of righteousness shall be peace, and the service of the righteous be rest and safety forever. And my people shall dwell in a home of peace, and in safe dwellings, and in undisturbed resting places. Even when hail shall fall, felling the forest, and the city shall be brought low in humiliation. Baruch are you who sow beside all waters, who send out the foot of the ox and the donkey. What does that verse mean?
I have no idea.
So I need to sit on that one for a second. So basically, it's bringing about this promise of goodness and abundance and produce from the land. And it does not matter when storms rage and hail falls, that everything around the strength of people and the cities can be brought low. But blessed, Baruch, are you who sow beside all waters. So who sow seeds beside, that's what it is. So rather than it's the faithfulness to sow seeds when water's available in those little places, even if it's a small stream or a little spring of life, but that when you have access to the waters of life, when you have access to it, Baruch are you when you are sowing in those places, who send out the foot of the ox and the donkey, which is basically those are the beasts of burden that bear loads and pull forth something. The ox is the aleph. So to send out the foot of the ox and the donkey is basically like, blessed are you who just puts forth the work of your hands and to sow where there is waters of life in all situations. Like this judgment is gonna pass, this all of this is gonna be whatever. But when you sow, whether it's access to the tiniest little bit of water or a complete downfall, blessed are you when you take advantage of that and you sow and you work. Yeah, honey. Could I have a popsicle? Didn't you already have one? No. Okay, well then you can have one as long as you bring me one. And I would like a lime one, please. Thank you. Um, that's my best interpretation of that last little bit, but I hadn't spent any time with that before. I think
What
that's it.
what would you say like sewing is in like reality? Like how do you actually sew?
Um, this is like the thing that I could think of as like offerings almost, and um the things that cultivate your spirit. So in the physical reality, to cultivate the ground, you have to gouge out you remove the rocks and you have to prepare the soil and aerate it and make sure there's airflow. So you have to prepare the soil, prepare the conditions of the heart. And then seeds that are sown. So like the Most High says, like uh he is the add-on of the Lord of the harvest, and it is seeds sown in tears will be reaped with joy or something like that. And I don't remember where it is. So what these seeds are hold on, I'm getting a popsicle delivered. Thank you, ma'am. Which flavor are you having? Oh, blueberry. I'll say hello. Hello. Say shalom. Shalom.
Shalom!
Shalom.
Shalom, my dear one.
Gosh, Eddie. She's coming back.
Shalom, my dear one.
Please no.
She doesn't like
um,
that voice.
she doesn't like theatrics, I think. When she can tell something is fake, she's like,
She scolded me. She scolded me privately later on. Like we were walking, I think to the cabin to get something, and she's like, "Please don't ever do that voice again."
that's awesome.
He said not to do it, but he done it again today.
Yeah. So she's calling you out. Did you say you weren't gonna do it? And uh-oh.
You know, Addie, you're right.
She will tell you how it is. All right. I wonder where she gets it. I'm so sorry about that. Um, all right. Thoughts, I guess, on all of these things. Um, any thoughts? Any
I definitely feel like I'm in the land of judgment.
the land of judgment? What do you mean? Define the
Well,
land of judgment.
the thing that he's talking about is like, well, you're going to be really like harshly judged or something like that. But not in a bad way, but like in a corrective good way that's like, okay, I want to grow, I want to kill the flesh. So you go through this process of doing that, like,
Mhm.
Hmm. And I think the beauty of what, like, before you joined, Haley was asking a question, and what I basically what said was like the burning away of this washing of the Torah is like all people will be bathed in it. And to those who wait to the very, very end, it's going to be like stepping into the kingdom through flames of fire. Like that's in prophecy. But the greatest joys are for those who choose that pain now, because refinement never actually feels good. It burns good, and your spirit can learn to rejoice in that thing, but the ego never feels pleasure in refinement and the purity of the Torah and that immersion. So, like, um, I get it. It is judgment and it is refining and it's beautiful. But the joy, and here's the thing, you're asking about what seeds are. These are seeds that you're sowing to seek right ruling now and to seek and to sow seeds into where you're sowing your time and your attention. These are seeds to bear fruit, and you can sow seeds into lust. You can sow seeds of thought and into intention, into money. You can sow seeds into family. You can sow seeds into ministry. You can sow seeds into your gifting. It's here's my life force energy. I'm applying it to something. Um, so those who sow seeds in righteousness, those who sow seeds in bathing themselves willingly, of ripping apart their heart and laying it on the altar, those types of seeds are the ones that reap the greatest rewards. And why? Seeds sown in tears are the ones that reap 30, 60, 100-fold. They are reaped in, oh, shalom, love.
we love you.
Shalom.
Um, um, these seeds that are sown, the intentions of your heart, that you place your willpower into this life and release it into this life to give it purpose, that is a seed sown. Um, and those who choose to sow it into refinement now reap the greatest reward. I think that's where I was going with all that. This popsicle is phenomenal. It's just very cold.
When I'm reading through, like in my personal time reading, like I don't know, I'm kind of excited because just reading through this and like when you get through, like I feel like we are in, like within this prophecy, we are in right in chapters 12 and 13, like where
Mm,
Yahuwah is calling out to his people and we're answering that call and we're climbing that mountain, we're being raised up. Um,
hmm
and all at the same time while this happening, like this world system also, it seems like it's all ramping up and it's trying to accomplish its goal. And so like as we're climbing, we're like raising our banner up, like to all the people who are still in the valleys, like trying to draw them up, and like as people are starting to climb or whatever, like it's like we have this opportunity, like are we going to look down at them from the mountain and like judge them for where they are, or are we going to invite them in and accept them and just pour this love and truth into them? And then so it's like there's this build up of like this righteousness rising but also this world system rising, and it says that like up until the very, very last opportunity, people are going to rebel. But at that moment when Yah intervenes, it's like that there will be no more of that. It's everyone's going to be on board. Um, or I don't know, it says there will be no more Gentiles. I don't know what exactly how that comes about, but it's just really awesome to me, like just reflecting, internalizing like the realness of like where we are at in this prophet. I don't know, it's exciting to me.
yeah,
So
I'm there with you and everything you're saying. My spirit's going, yeah, yeah, like this is all real time playing out. And it's a beautiful responsibility for us to make sure, again, the weight of what we have on our shoulders to die to ourselves, because the responsibility is to love other people into the kingdom as the Most High loved us into the kingdom. And it's not judging people into the kingdom. It's servitude into the kingdom. It's a giving of yourself into the kingdom. It's loving people in places they cannot and will not love you into the kingdom. And it flips the understanding of so many things on its head, but like we're going to get to look and watch people's lives changed and to see light. And we will always, the people who choose him now will always have more intimacy with him because our souls longed for it while it was still difficult. But we will get to watch those that we have loved walking in agony, and the world and the mess of this world and the manipulation and watching all of the darkness. Like we get to watch through our conduct, not because of our power, because of the great love that the Father has through us, for us, that we simply open. And then there's this massive healing and this power and goodness and blind eyes seeing and rash hearts and angry hearts releasing and seeing goodness and light. And to be in that perspective is going to be so deeply rewarding, because I think a lot of people lust after the glory that's in the Shemaim. But the greatest glory we have in this world is actually to experience the fullness of the Father in each other. So what we're actually going to experience is right now we are growing in the fullness of the Father together. But our glory and worship of him isn't necessarily going to be just directed upward. As these people heal and as more people join the light, the fullness of the Father will become evident in them as well. And we will inevitably grow exponentially in our own ability to see the glory of the Father. And it's just going to be this big old love and light fest, which is weird, but that's literally what it is. And it's like, it's all love and it's all unconditional giving and it's all this overflowingness
Can
without
I
trying. Yeah, please
can
talk.
I can I ask you something?
hmm
This is something that I have noticed that I tend to like use a different verbiage with.
Uh-huh.
Um, is like saying the Father versus like our Father. Because I know that if we make it more personal, there's like an intimacy that exists there of like our Father. I think that our Father part also includes the fact that we're a part of the same family, sort of like what you're saying is that we're witnessing the manifestation of our Father in each other. But I feel like if we say the Father, it makes it a little bit more objective and less personal. How do you feel about that?
I think that is up to the conviction of your Ruach. I think that if that's how you feel, it makes sense. I think it shows different aspects of the Father's nature because he is our Father and it's deeply personal and he loves us intimately as our personal loving Father. But he is also the Father of all things. And so I don't think for me that I could consciously make that adjustment to start saying our Father all the time, because I just also know him as the Father of the wind and the seas, and yes, that's our Father, but it's he's the Father, the only one, whether or not you acknowledge him or not. So I think that's my perspective of the Father.
Yeah.
Um,
And when you're talking to other people, you don't always know who they profess as their father or God or whatever. So kind of
Yeah,
got to
but
be careful
like
about that
yeah.
too. It's like,
Yeah, because some people's father is the devil.
yeah. So
Um,
I suppose it just matters. It depends on who you're talking to and just what you're
yeah.
comfortable with. Yeah.
hmm I think that's the case. I think it's if you try to apply these restrictions of how you want to refer to the Father as like this rule, you're going to limit yourself. And I think it's to open yourself to the possibility of approaching each conversation, each encountered case by case basis, how you speak of the Father and how you refer to him will be ruach led and not led in your own understanding. So I think it's exactly right. It's sort of just like a depends on the situation, depends on.
Like I see us all as siblings, you know, like in the kingdom we're all siblings, and it's almost like and it's also kind of besides the point, but I guess the reason why I say it is like I do see the Heavenly Father. Oh, hi, Yuri. Like
Welcome, Lily, officially.
I do see him in all this. I don't think I've ever like zoomed or seen Yuri before.
More of the fact that I woke up literally sweating all over my bed, and I was like, ugh.
Yeah. I like what Haley was saying earlier about was it Haley? That like as you raise in righteousness or elevation in Zion and you're climbing up this ladder, that you also equally have to be able to like extend your hand down and love and welcome people into that space. It reminds me also of the parable. It's like because you have been forgiven much, like you shall also forgive much. And the more grace that you like, it's literally you're imparting the grace of Yah. You're literally imparting as you are gracious and merciful and forgiving and kind to people, you're an extension of our Heavenly Father.
Yeah,
Mhm.
absolutely. And I think the power of the first will be last and the last will be first. He came to serve and not be served. It's evident in like those who seek the power or superiority or whatever will come from a place of like, you must rise to meet me in order to experience the fullness of this. Whereas Messiah teaches us that the way to the kingdom is not to stay up here in this place and just to continue, but we actually go down and we wash their feet and then we walk with them in humility and we let them spit on us and we let them slap us across the cheek and we let them steal our cloak and we walk with them 2 miles when they force us to walk with them one. And there's a level of what it actually looks like to shine and walk like Messiah walked and reign as Messiah reigned. It's not shiny and pretty. He had nothing. He was well acquainted with grief and but he ruled, and it looks like serving and unconditional love and a giving of yourself to others more than it is a divine revelation of heavenly things. Like it is the divine heavenly thing. There is time and space for all of these doctrines to come to pass and all of that, but more than any of it, he came to serve and he came to give himself. And I think that's a really cool a part of basically what we're being risen up into is service.
And
One
that
thing,
it's similar to the walk of Messiah. Oh, do you find that like it's easier to have grace and mercy on those who are like outside of the church, similar to how he like struggled with the Pharisees and their puffed up self-righteousness and all that. Like I know for me it's easier for me to simplify who I am and like literally set aside all theologies, doctrines, like when I'm meeting people out in public or at the gym or in a coffee shop, like it's so easy for me to just completely love them without, because I know they don't know all of the things. I know that they don't know all of the doctrines and theologies and stuff. So I'm just literally being very, very, very kind to them and showing them grace and mercy. And then every once in a while, I'll try to talk about faith if it even gets that far. Um, but like with people in church and Christianity, and they're so certain and stuck in tradition and the ways of man and religion and systems of all of these mega churches and stuff like that, that they have a comfortability and a certainty about like where they're at. And it makes me feel like almost like so frustrated at the like, it's harder for me to give grace in those areas.
I absolutely understand that. Um, would anybody else have any input on that specifically? Um, I'm thinking of you, Haley, just because I don't know. Like I'm happy to sort of talk on it. But I don't know if you have any insight into that of what he was saying.
Could you actually repeat the last part? Because I was listening, but then I was reading something at the same time, and I'm so sorry. I was having
Oh,
a squirrel moment. I'll just,
that's so awesome.
You
Yeah,
weren't
like,
listening to me, Haley. I'm just
oh
kidding.
no.
I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. Um,
you have less grace on the people that are in the church, in the Christian church. That's kind of where I blipped out right after that.
yeah, it's so much easier, I think, for me. And it's not that I don't have grace, like if I'm gonna meet them, but I also feel like the Messiah, where he like has this frustration with the Pharisees, where they're shutting up the kingdom of heaven. And I think that's kind of just transferred to a lot of whether it's the Catholic Church or stuff like that, or different aspects of denominationalism that um, instead of going deeper into the kingdom, they stop it at a certain point.
Hmm.
And I think I'm more frustrated at that than I am at them as an individual. It's more like the system that has
Hmm.
been created.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, they're still in deception. I was in that spot of most of my time in the church was like I was just listening and I don't know, my understanding came a lot from the pastors and the teachers, and I just like my heart was definitely there for the Father, but like I don't know, there's something that was holding me back, I guess, from really digging in for myself. And I don't know, something changed along the way. It's like I really felt a draw or a call. Like I don't know, it's had to be from the Ruach because I know there was definitely a shifting point where I just really started to like quote unquote wake up, right? Um,
So I want to go to what you said earlier about the ladder and like also being able to be extremely humble and grounded. Like it's everything in spiritual principles backwards, that like the first shall be last, the last shall be first, and in order to be exalted, you must be humbled. Like everything is reversed in the kingdom, and it's not you who like exalts yourself. It's literally through your surrender and your humility and your bowing that you're in the kingdom. That is the cloak of humility is the best robe you could ever wear. And I think what I wanted to touch on with what you were saying, Haley, is how do we then outreach? Because what I've noticed with like the church that I grew up in, like they have all of this like elite spiritual knowledge of like divine revelations and spiritual truth, but like how do we actually expand the kingdom? That's like what I want to like do with my life personally, is like whether it be just allowing it to be digestible, chopping up the meat, all that stuff that happens that like allows other people who normally wouldn't, whether they're in church, whether they're in Christianity, because Zion is something that like you have to be drawn towards, and there's a work of the Father that has to take place first within that individual. It's not all on you. It's just you coming into agreement with the Ruach. Um, I think that like I have such a compassion for people in church, as I'm sure like all of us do, that um we're able to have like this intimacy with the Father, and it's like, oh, there's just this desire to want to like show that more and more and more to the world, you know?
mhm. Yeah. I haven't quite figured out how to best reach people that are still in the church. Still navigating that one a little bit. Like I've learned a whole lot about how to, better reach and meet people where they're at, that are not in the church. I learned a lot just through my marriage and my relationship that way, but I don't know. That's a hard one.
What do you think, Yuri?
So for me personally, I grew up Catholic because in Italy, like the majority is Catholic. It's pretty rare to see like all the denominations that I saw in the US and all these things here. But personally, me, I grew up like being in the Catholic Church, but not being there at one point because I was so focused on like playing video games and wanted to play video games that I kind of detached from it from 13 years old and so on. But for me personally, like, how do I say this? People here think like going to church is a good thing, but I don't know, like, the Catholic Church is literally spiritually there for me. I'll just straight up say that for me. It's literally how it is for me. It doesn't teach you more. It just teaches you like go to church, go on Sunday, and that's it. That's pretty much it.
I love
At
you.
least that's
I love you so much.
that.
Just the way you talk, it's so refreshing. It's I love it. It's so simple. You just say it how it is.
I always said that I wanted to be honest, and
I love it. I love it.
yeah. But that's just how I see it as the way I grew up as well. But it's even like in a way why I see more people being atheists here in Italy as well. Like you just go to church, just there, then you literally the world crushes you, and then you just start questioning, why is all this evil in the world if there's a good God? And every time I'm like, ugh, how do I answer this to you? I don't want to go there.
Um, so it's really tough because we have this desire to reach people. And I think this is something that's like, if you have the desire to do something, but you lack the ability to do it, it means you're not meant to have the ability yet. And the Father is going to continue to refine you in these places to be able to say and do and speak the words that we're called to speak in its proper season. And if there are people we wish to minister to that we simply have not been able to reach yet, it's because it's not their time to be called. It's not their time to be drawn to the truth. But I also think this is because what we're learning and growing in is how to discern and how to judge and rule rightly, which means discerning of spirits and to know the difference between a woman caught in adultery in her brokenness versus the wicked who lies traps with the Torah and twists it for their own gain. Because there's a difference in our judgment of people who are in bondage in the Christian church, who don't know any better, and who even blaspheme the name and do these things that actually hurt the Father's heart, but they have no idea. And we're called to speak differently to these people than we are to address hypocrisy. And our judgment and our hypocrisy really should only be, not our hypocrisy, our judgment of hypocrisy should only be to those who have agreed to the covenant of the Most High, because we cannot hold the Gentiles, the people outside of understanding his ways, to our standards. And so there's a righteous right ruling and right judgment that we are growing in, that I think basically we're not meant to know how to fully win over the Christian church because there's a proper season for it and it's prophecy, and I fully believe that's unfolding, but it comes with our training, our boot camp to discern spirits and rule rightly is, yeah. Haley.
Yeah, so I think when I was still in the church, it wasn't anybody else that like kind of brought these truths to me. Like nobody like came to me and said, "Do you know?" or or told me about Torah or the true name. None of that. It was all by the Father, and just like at some point I had just a deeper desire to really like understand for myself, and I was reading things that I was noticing were just not quite like wasn't seeing the understanding wasn't lining up with what my pastors were saying, basically, than what I was reading. So I started to notice these little things. And so I started to, really seek the Father in that. And it's just like more and more and more, just as I started seeking, that's when, you know, things started,
I
So it
relate to
wasn't anybody else. So I think my point in that is that like it's not really it's not like we're supposed to be like going and chasing people down per se. It's just waiting for opportunities to come. And then just it's mainly by our example and our love and our unconditional to meet people where they are at. And they will see that and then they will come and ask questions on their own, I think. Um, you know.
I think that was spot on. I think
Mhm.
absolutely. I think that's exactly how we're called to do it.
Yeah.
And it keeps us from operating in our own understanding and take the responsibility of the kingdom and putting it on our shoulders. And it leaves it in the hands of the Father that we're only speaking when we need to speak, and we're only ministering when we're called to minister, and we're only teaching when we're called to teach.
Mhm.
So I think I'm trying to self-examine here and figure out like where does this come from for me? For me, it's compassion because a large portion of my family still is in church, and it's not all like you said, there's the ability through the Spirit to discern those who are caught in bondage, and for those people you have the most compassion and empathy towards, and to notice the difference between that and like hypocrisy, because some of the people that are in leadership, they don't even have ears to hear. So like their ears are sewed shut. If you try to say something to them to correct them, they would self-justify till eternity comes, right?
Yeah.
So it's knowing that, like, I believe that what Haley said is correct, that it is a work of the Holy Spirit in the people's lives. It's the work of the Ruach that starts drawing the hearts of men and children and women to the Father, that we cannot come unless we're drawn by Him. And so I realized that, I guess the part of me that like feels something that like, oh, I need to do my part or I need to do something to like help, is that I still feel like I want to free people from the bond. And I know it's not me, and it's like literally I have to get out of the way. And it's literally living a life that is a living epistle read of all men, that you're just how you exist. And I witnessed that this past weekend, that I was reading all of your epistles, that how you guys move around and walk around and carry yourself in in everyday life is a testimony that is like, it speaks so much louder than our words. It really does. And I witnessed that myself in every single one of us.
Hmm.
And there's no way that there could have been that much unity and fellowship in the spirit if it wasn't of the same mind and the same spirit of the Ruach HaKodesh. So that, I know that that's true for my experience, that people have told me that they see a lot of what like they say, well, we see a lot of God in you or something. Or if I'm playing music in nursing homes or different places that I'm out and about in public, that they do sense that, and then it does open a door of conversation, and it's not necessarily me trying to go out there and knock on everyone's doors, hello.
Why?
Hi, Kelly.
He's
I'm
getting
so
ready
glad
to
you stopped
go.
by.
What
Oh,
was
sorry,
that?
what? I was just saying, I'm so glad you walked over and stopped by to say hi.
Yeah, sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt anything.
Oh no, you're
Yeah,
That's
good.
so weird.
he's getting ready to go to do the first day of school stuff.
No, it's like
Yeah.
open house and
Yeah.
whatnot.
Oh,
Open
cool.
See
house.
my
Yeah. Yeah.
classes.
Cool. Have fun.
Yeah, thank you.
All right, we love you.
Bye.
See you.
All right. Oh, I love him. Um, I forgot what we were talking about though. Good stuff, kingdom stuff. We were talking about
Yeah, just like well,
oneness.
written epistles being drawn by the heart of the Father and being a testimony without speaking, and like all of those
Yeah.
things are true. I guess I part of me thinks about like, okay, and I know I don't need to even figure this out, because moment by moment, if I'm operating under the Ruach, it's like I don't even need to think twice about that. Like I'm just guided, and my mouth is being used, and I'm being used in surrender, not in effort.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. And that's the piece of literally knowing when you rest and you know there's no longer a striving of like hope that I'm going to be used because you know with all confidence that when you speak, you will be used.
Hmm.
And like it's not out of a desire to save people in fear or a desire to um do what you think is good in the and in your own understanding, but it really truly surrenders to the Father's timing. And even when you want to speak and when you want to move, you allow the Father to move in ways that you don't normally expect. And it's this place of literally childlike faith of where you're fearless, you walk and you create and you do without thinking and premeditating and all your reasons of why you're doing anything, because the purity of your soul is brought back to wonderment and inner innocence before the Most High, and the ability to just exist in freedom and love. And from that place is when you're then used.
That just unlocked something in me right now that I realize that I struggle with is patience. Like, that I have patience in a lot of things, but I think patience with the spirit that like sometimes I feel like I have such an urgency or like I guess it could be hunger or urgency or just like I want to grow really fast. I want to develop really, I want to do and accomplish and all these things that there needs to be a much like a slowing down into the present moment for me that I need because what can end up happening is that I start speaking before I am listening and seeking and all of those things. And that's something that I need to grow in is like learning to like really rest in the present moment of the spirit and not necessarily jumping to the next moment of what I expect and what I want and what I conclude and what I can conceive and my own vision of the next moment.
Mm-hmm.
There's so much wisdom in all of that. And I think, yeah, you're super spot on. And that ability is that distinction. Like I think you've reached the not even necessarily the fullness of the truth, but I definitely think that, yeah, it's the truth, what you were just saying. That's all.
Mhm.
I could
Yeah,
really complexly tell you that what you were sharing was true, but basically I was just going to find a complex way to say that.
like I need to have that urgency removed out of my heart and have
Mhm.
like a rest and a surrender into the spirit, into the present moment.
Mhm. Agreed. We all do. Serving, ministering, being a parent, being whatever it is that we're being, in our own striving versus rest. Like it literally was in one of these verses where the Most High is seeing, I showed you that your like salvation is in the stillness and rest, and yet you did not listen. Um, so like that's the cry of his heart. That's the the it's like the what is it called? The worship of the spheres or the song of the spheres or something like that, that there's this beautiful dance, and that's the point of it all, I guess. I don't know.
So I like I've told you my story and testimony before. I came out of New Age very heavily, and I don't think I've really shared much of that with Haley or anyone else. Um, I can briefly kind of talk about that, but just to kind of zip to the point. Um, there were certain concepts that I would pick up from different religions or traditions or New Age that would help me put puzzle pieces together of the bigger whole of the Bible and what Jesus was teaching, what Yeshua was teaching. And the Father was taking me on this journey of seeing the truth in part in other traditions and religions, but also granting me the wisdom and the discernment to not come into full agreement with those things, but know that they're elements of truth that belong to Him, that
Yeah.
they have hijacked and left out the crucial, important pieces that are required when you are serving Him.
Yeah.
So, one of those things that I gathered from, I guess, esoteric knowledge or worldly knowledge is like Eckhart Tolle, The Power of Now, like where everything is in the now moment. And they would talk about this in like New Age and stuff like that, where there's a lot of power in like your consciousness being fully present, that your awareness is just only aware of the now and in the moment. And I would read scriptures in the Old Testament where it would say, "Be still and know that I am God." That, like, there is such a requirement and a truth to that when you compare it with the whole, the totality of the truth, that there is a time for meditation and stillness that is conducive of His Spirit, that His Spirit works and flows in the places of stillness in our heart, where our minds and the waters of our mind are put to rest, that we are no longer giving a thought for what we should say or what we should speak, and just literally letting the Spirit flow through our being.
Yep. It's profound. And I think that's, yeah, exactly right. Again, spot on. I think that's the fullness of the inheritance, unless you become like little children, which is completely present in the now. Children aren't sitting there hyper analyzing every future decision. They make rash decisions in their errors, but now we are refined children. Now we are children that just are free and purity of spirit without the taint of the world. Just seek wonderment in every moment, and every moment know that He is for our good. Every moment know He's going to use us, and every moment we just have to wait. And every moment we have to just expect goodness at all times, and the freedom to do that, to expect goodness at all times, and look around you, fully present, to absorb and take in the beauty that the Father gave for you to enjoy. Like, that's the inheritance. That's the
And
goal. The fullness.
children are so like joyful, like and free, and they move through whatever they need to move through pretty quickly, but they're just like allowing everything that's happening in the moment. And I think that's where, for the most part, we're free of anxiety and fear. Because if you read where Yeshua is literally saying, do not take thought for what you're going to do tomorrow. Do not worry. Do not concern yourself for what you should eat or what you should drink. Like, literally, your heavenly Father knows what you have need of before you even ask. And so
Mhm.
it's the mentality of staying in total, like, dependencies, trust, and surrender in the moment, not like, because I think we play ping pong with the past and the future a lot. It's like, okay, now I'm going to my
Mhm.
memories. What happened over here? Now I'm projecting what might happen in the future. Now I'm going back into my memories. Now I'm going into my imagination, my vision, or my memories of, okay, I'm processing this event and I'm digesting this event, but we're not being fully present within like where we're at right now. So I don't know.
Yeah. Yep.
I That's
And
something I need to work on, because like I said, I have a natural like eagerness to want to move forward into the future in the moment and create and fulfill purpose and destiny and feel accomplished and all of those things. But it might happen literally in the surrender of all those things. And I think that's where we've experienced the alleviation of anxiety and fears, when we're fully present and we can have the patience to slow down and just rest in His Spirit.
so in the Odyssey, the siren song calls men into deep waters to drown them out. And what the siren song represents is the deepest of all their longings and all their regret. So this represents somebody whose mind is trapped in the past
Mm.
of going and longing to fix things that cannot be fixed. And you are surrendering yourself to something that is literally sucking your life away. And it feels so good. The siren song is just so appealing, and it's so delightful, because we as
Yeah.
humans would love to be able to go back and fix where we feel shame. We would love to be able to undo the places where we know we've gone wrong, because our memories bring us back. And so the siren song is oh so sweet, that if we just did this differently, if we did this differently, whatever. So there's the siren song, which keeps as you stuck your energy sucked away into the sea of what has once been and what'll never be. It's dead. There's nothing there. But then there's also this concept that's evident in scripture of do not envy what your neighbor has and do not look towards the future. And it's this what is present in metaphysics, and what you're touching on is this gift of the present, because when you are everything that isn't right now is literally untapped potential and exists in a space of outside space and time. So when you throw your attention into a place that is infinite possibilities, you're throwing your happiness, you're throwing your contentment, you're throwing your joy in the state of your full being into something that is the figment of your imagination. You're relieving that consciousness of the ability to be grounded and act and move in the present, and you're giving it away, your power and authority, to this imagination of this realm. And it's equally as alluring. But yeah, so basically I'm just saying the same thing that what you just said, but the siren song really is like these places that we get to in our mind feel so good and are so tricky for people to navigate, because it's so sweet to get lost in the past and try to fix things. And then it's so tempting and tantalizing to like spend our time in the future and fantasize and try to think about all the ways and manifest what we want for ourselves. Many are the plans in the mind of a man, but his footsteps are ordered by the Most High. So yeah, we can't control any of it, and we need to rest in every moment, because every single moment we either give our attention to the past or the future, we are giving away our life force energy.
That's so much easier like thought than done. Like, like we can understand that and it's like, okay, but actually doing it, it's so much harder. Especially when we want to, like you said, solve these different things, these like by thinking about things, we want to fix it and understand it and tear it apart, and can keep us in past events. Like for example, I still want to think about the trip. Like I still want to think about all the things that happened over the weekend. It's like, and I have to go leave the present moment and go in my memories and kind of digest that. So in practice, like I can understand what we just said as like there's a powerful truth in the present moment, in the now, because that is what is existing right here, right now. We can't even accelerate it any further. It's just right here, right now. But there's a part of the tendency of the mind to want to like digest and process and metabolize these experiences that we've had that require our thoughts to drift back into the memory of that experience.
I think we are told to chew the cud. We are told to meditate, which is an element to processing. I think, is your meditation in lust, or is your meditation in gratitude? Are you dwelling on what the Father's done because you're rejoicing and you're solidifying in your mind and like confirming in your neural pathways by giving testimony to what the Father has done within your being? Or is the hunger within that fuel to go back fueled by envy of something that once was, or something that could have been, or a place of lacking?
This is big right here. I think we could literally have a whole conversation about that, which is how do we properly go back in our memories and process things from a place that's not lustful. Like I would have never thought of that. I would have never thought of, or like even envy of the past. Like I literally could have never thought of that.
Well, I think it could be a whole conversation, but I also know it's 2:30 and we're going on 2.5 hours of
No,
our
no,
recording.
no, I mean for another time. I mean for like
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, that could be a whole topic of itself that more people could be aware of, or like you could make a TikTok video about that, like something like that.
You make a TikTok video
No,
about
I
it,
know, I
Josiah.
know, I know, I know, I know, I know, but I need to still reintroduce myself, and I'm not quite there of just like being able to just post. Like I have an idea of just like reintroducing myself and making that video. It's besides the point. I think you're at a place right now where I think you're at a place right now where it's normal for you to just like get on it. And it was a revelation that you had, and I think that you probably
Yeah,
have a deeper insight of how to share that than I do right now.
yeah, maybe. Maybe, yeah. Um, I haven't made TikTok content in a while, actually. It's been over a month, and it's my attention has been towards the mishpachah, and it's been towards the things that the Father's doing, and I feel like the time is coming for myself to get back on social media at some point. It'll be there. Don't know when, but yeah. Um, any final thoughts or things before we wrap up the study call discussion?
You
Okay. Well then I guess I can pray us out, or either one of you can pray us out, whatever you get, whatever. I will say maybe not Haley, not anything against you, but I've noticed that your connection or your mic at times does sort of get a little choppy or hard to
Yeah, I
discern.
keep getting this box that pops up saying my connection is unstable. I've
Okay.
been on the phone with my internet company twice already this last week. It's just, I don't know what's going on.
Okay. It's like literally so minor, but I think if you were to pray, there could potentially be like a couple words that we would miss. So decide, it's either me or you. So do you want to pray or I can pray?
Um, yeah, no, I would love to pray. Either way, Haley's prayer would be heard by God and it would be answered. You know what I'm saying? Like
Yeah,
even if we didn't hear it, or we would still receive the benefit of it because it's like I don't know.
yeah,
Um,
yeah.
but I get it.
For
I
the
get
sake of the video, though, for the sake of the
it.
video. Sure.
Okay. Dear gracious Heavenly Father, thank you so much for this moment, for this time that we can gather in spirit and in truth. We can gather in your love, in your light, in your presence. And we thank you that you're just delighting yourself within the praises of your people, that you know that our hearts long to know you to the fullest, and that you are so patient with us, and that you are so kind, and that you love us as dear little children. And may we continually humble ourselves before you and before one another, that we can view each other as more highly than ourselves. Grant me, O Father, the grace and the humility and the patience and the absence of pride to serve in the ways that I am meant to serve, that does not bring focus to me. May you teach me to walk in your way and your goodness, so that I may love your children and these individuals as deeply as you love them, and as deeply as my capacity is, that I may be able to fulfill your heart towards them. Heavenly Father, I pray just for our day, for our thoughts, for our minds, that they would be renewed and purified within your perfect, perfect, perfect love. That our thoughts would be focused on those things that are pure, those things that are righteous, those things that are lovely, those things that are of good report. That our thoughts would be focused on your light, which shines upon this whole world. The rain falls on the just and the unjust. And we know that you are reigning in our lives. I pray that you would just bless the remainder of our day, that you would fill it with your perfect peace, your shalom. Um, just that this day we would walk in a renewal and a strength of spirit. That whatever's on our hearts, whatever is burdening us, whatever we need to surrender and cast onto you, that we can do so because we know that you care for us, that you care about the inner workings of our being, you care about the inner workings of our emotions, you care about the inner workings of our spiritual body and even our physical body. That whatever our physical bodies, our spiritual bodies, our soul might need, that you would continue to grant us our daily bread. That we know that you care for us and you love us and you want to bring us into completion in your perfect work, in your wholeness. Remind us of our spiritual identity, that in your presence, in your love, we are already pure, we are already whole, we are blameless. With you, we are seated in heavenly places. Help us to walk in your spirit and your truth, throughout the remainder of this day, and stay steadfast within your love and your presence in the now. We give you all honor and glory, and we thank you in your holy name, Yeshua HaMashiach. Amen.
Amen.
Oh, yeah. Thank you for that. That was wonderful. Very nice. I love it when other people pray and it's just fire. So good. So thank you for that. I appreciate it. That was a wonderful conversation and talk and study, and I'm grateful for you guys to just listen to me just read scripture basically for I feel like it was like at least an hour of the whole thing was just my voice. So I'm grateful, but I'm also deeply grateful for the conversation and what the Father is teaching and moving in it. So yeah. All right. I guess that's it. I will see both of you Saturday, right? We're talking about everything that happened this weekend. I mean, yeah, which I'm really excited about. I'm really, really excited about because I think he's going to pour out even more. And I think this is something we talked about before you joined the call of like Haley was saying how she wishes she could remember and had a recording of like when the Father spoke through you and all the things that were said. And Mackenzie kind of brought up that the Ruach is going to bring things up again as it's needed. And when we come intentionally into this place on Saturday to testify and to reminisce and invite the Ruach back in that space, I think it's going to be good. So, yeah. Saturday morning, 7 a.m. your time, buddy. We could technically shift it.
No,
So here's
no,
the thing.
no. It's actually better. It's actually better for me because at 10 o'clock I'm getting together with. I started like a Bible group with like some guys from the gym. They're Christians. I want to like they're interested in having a more intimate discipleship and community of brothers that like can talk about things. Um, they're all in different places, like spiritually and maturity and all that, but it's a space in which we all get to talk and I get to share things that I don't know. So I'm doing that on Saturday. I'm doing it about once a month now. Um, just like trying to help strengthen these young guys in their walk and
Yeah.
it's really profound. It's really nice. It's funny because at the gym that I go to, it's literally my playground of ministering to people, and it's been so powerful. Like the conversations I've had, the ways in which I'm just sitting in a sauna and someone's there, and I'll just get this word to share with them, and then later on they'll tell me that like that was exactly what they needed and something that like spoke to that. And it's been a powerful place of ministry that I've been able to find at least four guys there that are hungry enough to go deeper because they recognize that they need something outside of church. And so Saturday, I'm doing that 10 o'clock my time. So it's actually better that the group starts at 7. So yeah,
That's perfect. It sounds like you'll be filled up and ready to go in a right heart
I know,
space to
right?
do your ministry work. It's
Right?
kind of perfect. Yeah.
I know.
Yeah. I will say just kind of while I'm thinking about it, Addie is doing soccer this year, which will shift my Saturday schedule a little bit. Um, we will likely have to shift the time of our Saturday meeting to be in the afternoon instead of to have Monday or morning meetings. So I don't know how that's going to affect everything, but it is something that we're going to have to figure out at some point. So we'll figure that out sometime soon.
Yeah.
I
But
never
that's
have anything going on in my morning, so that's fine.
it. All right. Well, I guess that's it. We'll figure out other details, but so far the next thing is Saturday, and we'll meet and we'll find the Father on Saturday together, which will be exciting.
All
All right.
right.
Love you guys.
Love you.
Shalom, shalom. You're the
Shalom.
best. Bye.
Bye.